Hi, welcome back to Tired Old Queen at the Movies. If you're not following us yet on Twitter, you can do so at twitter.com/Steve Hayes. And if you haven't subscribed to us here on YouTube, please do. Let's go see Steve.
Johnny! Oh, let's go.
Tired Old Queen at the Movies.
Johnny, I wanted to recommend a love story, so I chose 1947's The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, directed by Joseph L. Mankiweicz, starring Gene Tierney, Rex Harrison, George Sanders, Natalie Wood, and Edna Best. Now, Joe Mankiweicz had been a producer at MGM for many, many years, and when he moved to Fox, it was on the proviso that he could direct some films, so this was like maybe the second or third movie that he had directed. And Gene Tierney was at the height of her career at Fox. She had done Laura, Leave Her to Heaven, and played Isabel in The Razor's Edge, and they were all kind of prickly parts.
She'll never stop drinking. Sophie wallows in the gutter because she likes it. A blind person could see that.
Well, just the same, I do wish you'd be nice to her, Isabel. We're going to be married.
What?
So Zanuck was very anxious for her to do something that was warm and lovely and sort of ethereal. So they chose this story about a woman who's a widow who takes her small daughter, who's played by Natalie Wood,
To live by the sea.
Oh, goody.
to move into this old sea captain's house on the Cornwall coast at the turn of the century, not knowing that the cottage is haunted by the captain himself.
Did you laugh, Mr. Cook?
Played by none other than Rex Harrison. Now, Rex had a big career in England and was brought out to Hollywood to star as the king in the original version of Anne and the King of Siam with Irene Dunne, which was later made into The King and I. And he was on a roll also, and unfortunately he was just catnip to the ladies. He was always a philanderer.
I lived a man's life, and I'm unashamed of it. But I can assure you no woman's ever been the worse for knowing me.
And he had an affair with Carol Landis around just after this movie was made, and she unfortunately killed herself, and it sort of squashed his ambitions in Hollywood. And he went back to Broadway, and he didn't return to make a movie until the mid-1960s when he did Cleopatra. Now, he makes himself known to Gene Tierney's character, to Mrs. Muir, and tells her that he wants her to write his memoirs.
I've solved all your problems. You're going to write a book.
A book?
I've seen things you'll never dream of. You know, it sounds more like Robert Newton, but he's not. He's more romantic.
Let's see. We'll call it, Blood and Swash.
And she writes it all down, and they can't believe that she would know all of this stuff because she writes in his vernacular.
What's your name?
Mrs. Muir.
George Sanders comes in, and he's sort of a playboy, and he makes a play for her. You know, you're very beautiful, you're very gorgeous.
It's easy to understand why the most beautiful poems about England in the spring were written by poets living in Italy at the time.
How do you do?
But she doesn't really go for him because she's in love with the captain, and he keeps appearing to her at night, telling her how much he loves her.
Lucia.
And that if they had been born at the same time, the heights that they could have made. And Bernard Herrmann fills the screen with the most sumptuous music you have ever heard in a movie. Nobody's movies were ever the same if they had a Bernard Herrmann score. They were just, he just put it that much above. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the most glorious, glamorous Hollywood romances I think that's ever been filmed. It's mysterious. It's gorgeous. It's The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. Gene Tierney, Rex Harrison.
Lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's
Sparkle,
Delicious things to eat.